I've simulated the upcoming championship season on FC24 and it's come up with some interesting results. Now obviously there's still a lot of time between now and the start of the new championship campaign. A lot of transfer business still needs to be done, and so with that in mind I might do another one of these before the season kicks off to get a more accurate representation. But using the squads as they are right now, I've thrown every team into the championship, simulated to the end of the season, and it'll be interesting to reflect on this video and see just how accurate FC24 was. We did this video last year and surprisingly they were quite bob on with a few of their shouts. But without any further ado, let's jump in. Starting out at the bottom of the championship, FC24 has gone for Plymouth Argyle to only win 7 matches all season and only accumulate 35 points. Now, I have a feeling Plymouth will be tipped by quite a few people to go down this season. Obviously, the Rooney appointment has got people talking, especially how last season with Blues went. But I'm coming into this season with an open mind with Plymouth. Rooney will have a full pre-season with those players, a luxury he wasn't afforded at Birmingham. But yeah, I do have a feeling they will be tipped by quite a few people to go down this year. Probably one of the boldest shouts of this entire simulation though is Bristol City to finish in 23rd, only winning 9 matches all season and accumulating just 43 points. Felt like Bristol City ran into a little bit of form towards the back end of last season. Interesting point about the Robins is in their last 4 consecutive seasons they've improved upon their previous league finish. So while progress has been slow and steady, it does feel like they are building in the right direction. Whether or not they'll be consistent enough next season to launch a proper playoff bid, I'm not too sure. Do I see them going down though? Not for me. Coming in 22nd place, FC24 has then got Derby County, the first of the newly promoted clubs. They've got Derby to finish on just 44 points. Now, it's difficult to judge where the newly promoted clubs will be finishing in the championship next season because they've still all got a lot of work to do in terms of getting their squads up to championship standard, and until all that business is done, it's difficult to gauge how competitive and which portion of the championship they'll probably be in next season. While Oxford United have been the most tipped side for relegation up until this point, FC24 does have them surviving just 49 points they've got Oxford finishing on, which would be good enough for 21st place. I'm sure every Oxford fan right now would absolutely take that. Survival is the name of the game, I'm sure, for them coming into next season. 49 points would represent a decent season for them for sure. Really quite interesting as well, in this simulation, all 3 of the newly promoted sides were bunched together. In 20th place, we've got Portsmouth, so interesting that they've got 2 of the newly promoted sides surviving and 1 of them being relegated. Generally speaking, that usually tends to happen as well, doesn't it? There are obviously exceptions to that, but it's very commonplace for 2 of the League One teams to survive and 1 of them to go down. FC24's gone for Portsmouth and Oxford surviving, with Derby, the side, going down. Cardiff have dropped down a fair few places though. They're down in 19th place, picking up just 52 points all season. Obviously, the good news for Cardiff is they have got that bit more stability now, it seems, with obviously Errol Bullock signing that new deal for them. Felt like they built a solid foundation for themselves last season. It's now just a case of whether or not they can go ahead and build upon that. FC24 doesn't think so. In 18th place, we've then got Sheffield Wednesday. The Owls are a side who really intrigue me going into next season. I can't lie, last season was the great escape. But what's possible for them this season, especially with a bit more of a cohesive plan being present at Hillsborough from the start of the season? I mean, the start of last year was an absolute disaster under Zisco. They were playing catch-up for the whole campaign, weren't they? Won't be doing that this time around. FC24's got them in 18th. Blackburn, a side who very much could go in either direction next season. I wouldn't be that surprised if they are in and around this portion of the table. The simulation had them to finish in 17th place, picking up 54 points all season. It's a very similar finish to last season, really. That's 1 more point than they finished on last time around. In 16th place, we've got a big faller from last season. It's Hull City, going from playoff challenges to mid-table mediocrity. Now, as football owners and people who run football clubs, you live and die by your decisions, and going into next season we'll really get to see at Hull whether that decision to part ways with Liam Rosenior has gone ahead and paid off. Very ambitious and quite aggressive ownership model with how quickly they want to get Hull challenging at the top end of the Championship. Sometimes that can backfire in your face. If Hull finished in 16th next season though, that would be a big disappointment from their perspective. Very interesting on the simulation here. They've then got Sheffield United all the way down in 15th place, and this is with, you know, the squad they're coming down to the Championship with right now. There's every chance that more players will leave before now and the start of the campaign. A finish of 15th with just 61 points would be really underwhelming from a Sheffield United perspective, but already I've seen quite a few people tipping them to struggle next season. Big reset is needed this summer, but that would be a really disappointing campaign for sure. 14th, the simulations then got Coventry. That would be quite an underwhelming season from their perspective. Interestingly though, it's got them finishing on 62 points, which is only 2 points worse off than they finished last season with. Still, you'd like to think that Cov will probably be there or thereabouts in the playoff mix, but hey, a lot can change between now and the start of the season. Decent amount of movement here from QPR. This simulation's got them to finish in 13th place, also picking up 62 points, but with a slightly better goal difference than Coventry. Definitely feels like the gears are starting to move back in the right direction for QPR, but listen, still too early to tell like with a lot of these other sides. Are Stoke City finally going to finish in the top half of the Championship? Well, according to this prediction, it might finally be their year. Consecutively, since they've come down from the Premier League, Stoke haven't been able to break the top half of the table. Bit of room for optimism maybe in the back end of last season with Schumacher, as he seemed to figure a winning formula in those final couple of months, but always feel like with Stoke, there have been false dawns in the past, so you never want to get too ahead of yourself. But they've already got a bit of their business done already this summer, so for sure I'll be keeping a close eye on them. This is a very big shout here though, because this simulation had Burnley finishing all the way down in 11th place, and I mean, they're one of the favourites to win the Championship outright right now, so if Burnley weren't to be involved in that automatic promotion picture, it seriously would shape things up at the top end of the Championship. Still got a very talented group of players, despite how disappointing last season in the Premier League was, but how that squad is configured now, without the touch of Company, which felt like he was maybe the difference for them last time in the Championship, we'll have to wait and see, but a finish of 11th would surprise me. When it comes to Preston North End, we just can't escape this region of the table, can we? We finished 10th last season, and this simulation has us finishing in the exact same place, albeit with a few more points on the board, but we have made a name for ourselves as a middling Championship club, and listen, with the right investment, maybe we could kick on next season, but it does seem more than likely that it probably will be more of the same next time around. Millwall were a bit all over the place last season, weren't they? But really figured out that formula under Neil Harris in the back end of the campaign, and under a full season of Harris, FC24's got them to finish 9th in the table, so quite a significant improvement on last season. Now, in years gone by, Millwall have been within that pack of teams who have been playoff challengers but have never quite got over the line. This indicates them maybe getting back into that territory. I think a finish of 8th would be a really positive season for Swansea. They finished last season in 14th. This has got them to finish in 8th, just missing out on the playoffs, picking up 68 points. A full season of Luke Williams in the Championship. I'm excited to see how that unfolds. Middlesbrough had a late dash to make the top 6 last season, and is the same about to happen this time around? Well, FC24 certainly seems to think so. They got Borough just missing out on the playoffs, finishing on 68 points, which is 1 less point than they accumulated last season. That finish would be especially gutting for Middlesbrough and Swansea as well, because they'd only be missing out on the top 6 by goal difference. Luton Town just sneaking in there, also finishing on 68 points, but with that slight better goal difference than Borough and Swansea. So by FC24's calculations, they've got Luton finishing as the best of the relegated sides from the Premier League, but none of them higher than 6, which really would shake things up around the top of the table. Very big call here. They've got Sunderland to finish in 5th place, accumulating 71 points. Now, there's no denying Sunderland are a club with so much promise and ambition, but it does feel like between now and the start of the season, a lot of stars need to align if Sunderland are going to be that club finishing in the top 6 again. We've had 2 campaigns of Sunderland now back in the Championship. Obviously, that first year back up, they did make the top 6, but there's no denying how disappointing last season was. Really petered out towards the end of the campaign. From January onwards, only Rotherham picked up fewer points than the Black Cats did. But FC24's fancying them to change their fortunes around. Another bold call here. They've got Watford finishing in 4th place, picking up 73 points. Once again, feels like a lot of stars need to align for Watford going into next season if they're going to be competitive and in and around the top 6. With parachute payments coming towards an end, the club having to live more within its means from a financial point of view, next season could be tricky for Watford. Big shout here from FC24 as well. They've got Norwich finishing as high as 3rd, picking up 80 points. Now, the Canaries were a really weird team last season, weren't they? Just about managed to get over the line and into the top 6, but the vibes all season weren't really great around David Wagner. They've since made that change, and I do feel that optimism heading into next season. But I'm sure every Norwich fan would snap your hand off right now for that sort of finish. Then sneaking into the top 2 with just 81 points, it's West Brom. Now last season, if you would have accumulated 81 points, that would have only been good enough for a 5th place finish, which coincidentally is exactly where West Brom did finish. But FC24 is predicting the threshold for automatic promotion to be a lot lower this season, and that very much could be the case with the likes of obviously Ipswich, Southampton and Leicester no longer there, who really were these juggernauts at picking up results last season along with Leeds. And speaking of Leeds United, they are FC24's tip to go ahead and win the Championship next season, accumulating a massive 98 points and scoring 102 goals along the way. Now it is interesting, with a lot of bookmakers right now, Leeds are the favourites to win the Championship next season. Obviously, it was playoff final heartache for them last time around, but they've still got a squad and manager with that know-how. Listen, things could quite easily backfire for them next season and everything unravels in a sort of chaotic Leeds United fashion, but if I had to predict it right now, I probably would have Leeds in the top 2. But there you have it though, guys. That will wrap it up for today's video, just for a little bit of fun. Be interested to get you guys commenting. Do you think FC24 was too harsh on your team, too kind on your team, or do you think they've got it spot on? Other than that though, guys, thank you very much for tuning in. If you did go in to enjoy, make sure to leave a like, and I'll see you all in the next one.